Hey, what's up, guys? Frugal BC. Got a crazy day for you today. Man, I can't keep track. Honestly, like I can't keep track of the markets. It's like, should I be happy about them or unhappy about them? It seems to change depending on the hour and what's going on with the market. So, boy, I actually don't like the way that camera's centered. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll move a little bit this way. There we go. That's a little bit better. Hey, yo, I finally got to see you live on Twitch. Hope you're having a great day. Hey, thanks for watching on Twitch, my friend. Good to see you. Now you got even a different name on Twitch. Yeah, bonds will be wild today. I've been watching the treasury yields, and they have really been something else. Yeah, it's cool to have a viewer on Twitch. I'm kind of trying out Twitch and Kick simultaneously to see which one will end up being better for me. Um, because honestly, I haven't really seen much traction on Kick. I think it's really hard. I might just not be able to. It's possible I just don't stream enough to really get traction on any platform. But I did have viewers on. I had more viewers on Twitch already than I did on Kick. So, well, the only time I've had good viewership on Kick is if like someone in the community, like a community, wants to come watch. Like when I was doing the poker streams, people got a kick out of that. And so yeah, we're trying them out, and the best views honestly are on X, but there's also like zero monetization basically. So if they change that, because I actually do want to go back to X. I'm just deciding, should I stream to Twitch or stream to Kick. So I'm kind of leaning towards Twitch, even though I spend a lot of time streaming on Kick. And William says, "Sweet, you'll have to add yourself to the crypto category and get settled. Doesn't show the tag under your title." Oh, okay. There's probably more. No, you're probably right. I set it up pretty quick last week, and I haven't really looked into it. The crypto tag would probably make a big difference in my viewership. I've noticed like live streaming on YouTube has been way down from, gosh, I was getting like 30, 40 concurrent viewers on YouTube, and now they've been closer to 10. So, but hey, whoever's here, we're happy to have you, happy to stream, and it's fun. And I think I'll have some big announcements coming up very soon. Snail says sentiment. I've been trying to decide, should I call you Snail or Gary? I'm not sure which one, but it says sentiment is blah right now. Yeah, it's all over the place, and I don't even know. I actually executed a few different successful trades, and I'm kind of nervous to do more, especially since I had to make use of my extra liquidity recently, which I'm not. Well, taxes are something else, let me tell you. I'm glad they're over, except they're not really over. Cleaned Out says we retail are getting tired of the markets. Yeah, no, totally. That's 100% true, and I'm really tired of the markets. This was supposed to be the time period. The reason why people are really upset is we held through the bear market, we built during the bear market, we did all this with the promise that we were going to have another great cycle like we did the last two times. I did really well the last two cycles. My only regret was not buying more, and instead, this is where we're at. Before we get into things, for everyone here, if you haven't already hit the like and subscribe button, if you're watching after the fact, please hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps the channel. Helps, especially during the stream. Likes really help show the channel to other people because we want to get this stream out there. So you haven't liked already, and appreciate the comments on Kick or Twitch if you're watching on one of those. All three of them, please leave comments. It's good to get the conversation going. We're at a size where we'll definitely read them on screen. It's a lot of fun. I've noticed some other YouTubers I follow and check in on their streams once in a while, and they've had pretty low numbers too. I think anything having to do with crypto. I will say my videos actually did really well this week compared to those had been kind of slumping too, and they're starting to come back. So anyway, we do have channel memberships. If you guys are interested, you can get videos before anyone else. And higher channel members get exclusive videos. So be sure to check that out in the description. You can go to the main channel page and hit the join tab. And then I want to give a brief shout out to our sponsors. Wait, there it is. Non-fungible domains. Oops. That's one thing I always forget to fix. There we go. This is non-fungible domains. I've got my own, and these guys are great because you just get the .algo address. Like mine's frugalbc.algo, If you're a snail like Gary, you could get snail.algo or something like that. The more common, the more less likely it's going to be available, I suppose. And the shorter, the more expensive it is. Cleaned Out says it looks like we're trying to break out on the RSI. Too early to tell. We'll need a big news event for the push, otherwise we retest lows. In my opinion, it's the best time to buy. Well, we'll get into that. We'll get into the charts in a second because I'm going to show you what I saw in my trades and why I think they worked. Yeah, and you can have extra. So here's these are a bunch of segments where you got something dot fishsticks dot algo, so you can segment out. So I could have I could offer segments to people. Actually, maybe I should do that, huh? I should get Frugal BC segments that people can get. I have to look into that more. Anyway, these guys are great people. They've been a channel sponsor for a while because I just believe in what they do. I think they do good work. Oh, it went a little blurry there. I think they do good work, and yeah, I'm a big fan of these guys, so definitely check them out. And then my other sponsor is Marcus Aurelius, and they are a meme coin and NFT project on the Algorand blockchain. And I love what these guys are doing. I really do. They do good work. Joining the Little Stoic Army. That's what they're talking about. So basically, he's using his meme coin project to spread the word about Stoicism. I think that's really, really cool. You can buy the Marcus token. They're doing burns. They got quite the roadmap. NFTs, more content. They're making videos. They made a video the other day, which is pretty cool. They gave me a little preview of. So lots of cool stuff. Here's the tokenomics. There's 700 million LP tokens are locked for 1 year. 300,000 of the market, or 300 million. I said 700 million, right? 300 million of the Marcus for partnerships, ecosystem growth, etc. And they are a proud channel sponsor. It's really fun to have them on the. They even put their wallet information, so you can scan the wallet. You can find out. I actually have one of the coffee mugs too, right here. Let's see. There it is, Marcus Aurelius. With the little kitty on it. Pretty cool. I like sharing that on stream. So anyway, I just want to give those guys a shout out because they both support the channel, and that's part of the reason I can bring it to you. I don't charge them a ton, by the way. I mean, my rates are pretty low, actually. In fact, my business mentor says it's too low, but I feel like I got to make it reasonable for people. In Algorand, a lot of these projects don't necessarily have a ton of money anyway. It's not a lot of them are making huge bucks. So I just want to be reasonable and especially in this building phase. And then, it's affected. I'll say NFT stuck with me through the bear market, and it would have been probably easy to say, hey, you know what? We can't right now. Other people did, I've had sponsors that just disappeared. So I don't know. It is what it is, but these guys stuck with me, and especially Non-Fungible Domains has been around the channel for a long time, and they've stuck with our channel for a long time, and we really appreciate it. And Marcus believing in us enough to support the show also means a lot. I gotta stay centered, so I stop. William says you're doing the right thing. Hey, I appreciate that. It's not easy. I've been an entrepreneur for about a month and a half now, and I'll say it's an emotional roller coaster like nothing I've ever experienced. I didn't realize that going in. I thought it'd be oh cool, I don't have to go to the day job anymore. It's good. I mean, I still think it's the right decision, but man, some days it's it's kind of depressing, to be honest. Anyway, speaking of depressing, why don't we get to the markets here? And it's actually pretty good today. We're actually up almost 5% on Bitcoin, back to that 82.3 range. So this is the funny thing. Let's look at Bitcoin a second here. See what it's going to show us. I'm going to have to move it around a little bit. Yeah. Up to 82.3. We're actually up above 83 for a little bit. So that's not a bad daily. What does it look like on the week? Yeah, not so great on the week. But it's hard to say because it's just a very noisy. We're actually up on the month, believe it or not, which is an interesting metric. But we were up much higher. We were in the high 80s. I think a lot of people thought, all right, we're back. And then, but that's what happened for pretty much the entire market. Now, I had a couple successful Bitcoin trades where I bought in this 70s range and sold in the 80s. So I usually don't do that. But what I saw, let's go to the trading view here. I might have to move this around a little bit. But first, it always defaults to the day. And I wish it defaulted to the, here we go. I wish it defaulted to the 4-hour chart. I think that's a lot more useful. All right, so there's RSI, and let's put in the Bollinger Bands. So the comments about RSI are interesting because our RSI is actually rising. And what we saw down here, now my trade, if you can see my cursor here, my trade was around here. So we actually fell a little bit more before rising back up, but it did shoot back up. I did successfully close the trade, and so I made a little money doing that. Not a ton, but it was something. And you know, right now we're kind of in that no man's land. We're in the middle of the RSI, so we're not really seeing a huge pump. Once it maxes, you know, it's prime for pumping right now. It's been going up. We got a rising candle, so that's good to see. We're above the SMA, so that's also good. So we'll see what happens. We start getting toward the top of the Bollinger Band. That's usually when you have to start worrying a little bit. We're good for now. Cleaned out says weekly RSI and BTC. Well, let's look at weekly. I found that, like, for making, now this is for making short trades. I don't use this for prediction necessarily, other than on the 4-hour chart, when you have RSI below 30 and you're at the bottom of the Bollinger Band or even below it, as you can see, that's usually a good time to lock in a short-term trade. And I'm talking really short-term, because you're probably going to get a bounce up, and that's usually what happens. So that's just something I've tested out. If you want to see what the weekly looks like, we can look at that. Yeah, weekly is interesting because weekly we're on the bottom of this. We're just bouncing off the bottom of this Bollinger Band. RSI is lower, but not. It's interesting how that looks, because it's just a different equation, and it's not one I'm familiar with enough to, you know, make any kind of commentary on. But it's interesting how it changes when you zoom out for a week versus a day. So that would seem to me, and I don't put a trend line. Yeah, I don't do trend lines. I don't, you know, I'm just going to stick with what I know, and this is what I know. So this is pretty interesting, though. So anyway, that's Bitcoin. And he says bullish. I think it looks bullish. I hope so. Let's just see who's winning here in the 24-hour. Who's ahead right now? Onyx Coin. AB, haven't heard of that. Fart Coin. Yeah, this is pretty typical. You just have these really crazy coins. Curve pumping up for no really good reason as far as I know. Jasmine Coin. Hyperliquid. The only thing I know about Hyperliquid is there was some controversy around it, and whatever that was, it appears not to have impacted it too much, because up 14% on the day and 31% on the week. Render's one I think is pretty decent. I kind of like the idea of it. I don't have any, but I think the idea of it is where you can, I believe this is the one that allows you to sell compute time on your PC or your GPU, and you can rent it out. So that's rent it out and make some money on it. I think that's kind of cool. Yeah, you got Caspa, Bonk, Helium. Oh, Helium's going up. That's good. I can pay my cell phone bill. I will say, I don't know if you guys have used Helium Mobile, but it's a pretty good phone service, and it's really affordable. It's crazy how much you can make on it. Roaring Kitty with the next hype in crypto, and yes, Render has something to do with GameStop. You know, I think you're right, but I can't remember how it related to GameStop. Ondo was one I actually did a trade on Ondo, but I think Ondo is like maybe a good coin to hold. I'm not sure. Pancake Swap. So this is one You know, I talk a lot about Algorand, and the reason why I do is because the stuff is really easy to use. PancakeSwap, the problem was I had a hard time finding where I could buy the initial assets to put in to start taking advantage of some of this DeFi stuff. So I looked before I really got into the Algorand ecosystem. I was looking at something like PancakeSwap, you know, and wondering like, oh, this could be a cool DeFi protocol. And this is a lot of why I made the channel, because I want to try things out and show what actually works, versus what's, you know, just hype or, you know, doesn't work the way you would hope it would. Bitcoin Cash, Solana's actually up a little bit. It's crazy to think that I was selling at like 200 some. I'm actually in profit on Solana, and my portfolio overall is in profit. There's one like Jito. It's crazy how much some of these pumped. Even XDC pumped. There's Algorand. We'll dive more deeply into Algorand, but there it is at 6%. Maker's another one where I tried it out and it did not work well. Because it was still Ethereum. The transactions were still on EVM. They were still Ethereum based, and so the problem was you couldn't do like a small experiment. You kind of have to deal with big amounts. With these, you don't have the option of doing like a small experiment, because the gas fee has to be worth it for the gas fees. That was the same as, oh gosh, what was the other one? There was another one I tried out, and it was the same thing. It was like, well, unless I can't even really like claim any of these rewards because it'll cost me more in gas fees than the rewards. So that's why I like Algorand. You know, it doesn't have that same problem because the gas fees are so low. Is it me or did I not see Hedera on that list? How is Hedera doing? Ooh, Hedera's actually down. That's a bummer. Oh no, up a little bit on. No, it isn't. It's keeps swapping on me. Algo is really fast on transfers, but I don't know. You don't not use it for in DeFi at all. This is why I follow you, but it just doesn't seem like there is too terribly much to offer yet. That's interesting. What is it that you are looking for that you can't find? I'd be curious about that, because I've had pretty good luck on Tiny Man. It's not been as good as it has been in the past. Actually, I'm gonna take a look real quick. We'll come back to the charts, and I've been really bad at updating, so I have no idea. Oh yeah, so the next rewards are 163. So these have been actually pretty good, and this also kind of depends on. Yeah, Tiny's actually been at 2.5 cents. We'll come back and cover this more extensively, but this is an interesting pattern. It's just been kind of going sideways, it looks like. And remember, one of the reasons I like Tiny is because it was staying in that 2.5 to 5 cent range, but unfortunately it's been sticking on this 2.5 lately, if not a little bit lower. So that's interesting. But yeah, I got some Tiny here. I probably have some in my stake as well. Anyway, going back to Hedera, yeah, that's it's one of the few that is not doing so well today, despite the other cryptocurrencies doing well. I kind of wonder why that is. There was I will say we covered this earlier in the week, but there was a hack on one of the HBAR wallets. It wasn't Hashpack. It was, let me find it. I have it in my notes. Yeah, here it is. This was actually released by the HBAR Foundation, and not the bank social wallet, but it says we have been made aware of a large-scale phishing attack targeting the bank social wallet. The DA teams are exploring this incident, and we are actively monitoring the situation. As always, stay vigilant. Yeah, no, what a coincidence again. No comment. I think you guys should be monitoring President Huddle. Something off with all of this. The last hack happened. They literally paid to boost the post out of all of my time, and I've never seen. Okay, dude, buy a period. You gotta buy some punctuation in that. I just, it makes it so hard to read. It is weird though, why, and this was true yesterday. We'll see if it's still true, but they hadn't posted anything yesterday, and only the foundation had posted anything. And they had 18 hours ago, they had something with their Google Cloud partnership. Yeah, I think that's bad. I think you got to say something. You can't just rely on the foundation to, oops, I see what I did there. Sorry about that. That looks a little better. You can't just rely on the foundation to put that out. They should be putting that out too. This kind of reminds me of the My Algo hack, which was like, I will say that was an all hands on deck moment for me. I mean, I just finished like an 11-hour day, and I sat down on the couch and I was just gonna relax a little bit, and then I saw the stuff about the hack, and I'm like, oh no, I gotta go make a video. I can't like not put something out. And I did like 3 back-to-back videos on the My Algo hacks. I will say, like, from a personal standpoint, it really grew my channel, but also it was important to put the information out for people. And as far as I can see, I was the only one to like really dive in and get that info out to people. And it was important because there was steps you had to take, you know. If you had if you had your wallet address with My Algo, you had to rekey it so you wouldn't get in trouble, so you wouldn't get you could prevent the hack, basically. A lot of people got hacked, and we never really got a final report. Like, I don't know, maybe the FBI is still investigating, but it's been a couple years now, I think. Anyway, so that might be why Hedera's price is down. And it's funny too, because as far as the fear and greed index goes, we're currently outside of extreme fear, which is nice. We're at a 21. That's just regular, the bottom of regular fear territory. Not that you should take these designations like too seriously, but it's been interesting that we haven't been bullish for a very long time. We were more bullish almost all of last year than we have been this year. And this is years when things are supposed to be taking off. But you're seeing the price drop. Wait a minute. Doesn't even make sense. Oh, is that volume? No, it's price. Oh, because we were. Oh, that's when we were in the hundreds. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong. Okay. This one always screws me up because I see the 10, 80, 60, but actually over here is on the left-hand side is what I should be looking at. Tiny Man, I have no idea about, but have heard you talk about it. Yeah, well, that's one of the DeFi options. There's others like Compex, Folks Finance. As far as a decentralized exchange, well, a lot of things have a swap feature, but not necessarily an exchange. I think you're talking more like there was one called C3 that was by the same company that made My Algo, which is the hacked wallet, and they had the original Algo Explorer, which apparently was like it didn't make any money. It was supposed to be funded by the foundation, which decided not to fund it anymore. I don't think that's a very sustainable business model. Like, if you're going to run a company, you should probably have an idea of how to make it profitable. That's just my opinion anyway. I don't know. Like, I freak out about my own businesses and they make money. I just worry they're not going to make enough to cover the taxes. That's the frustrating part. Oops. I got to stop doing that. Or that. You guys don't really see that either. So speaking of, let's go to, we're on the 4-hour. Ledger bands. Yeah, kind of the same situation as Bitcoin, at least on the 4-hour chart. Cleaned Out says, in my opinion, that is why Algo hasn't really taken off yet. No, that's possible. Yeah, C3, Well, C3 I think was not available in the US, so that's probably part of it. But it could be, yeah, it could be also that it just it doesn't have a real DEX yet. So looking pretty similar on that. Not much to talk about. It looks almost identical to Bitcoin on the 4-hour chart. And then let's look at the weekly. Now this is interesting because this is, this is different. Bitcoin's was much, much higher, as I recall, unless I'm misremembering that. And we're under the AMA instead of above it. Very interesting. Or the SMA, sorry. Interesting. Well, we are still in Bitcoin season, so that could be a big difference there. He says looks like Algorand's broken out. That's true. Popular coins here, Tangerine. Another one you haven't heard of. Headline. What's going on with Headline? That is wild. That's a weird little candle for Headline. I wonder what's going on there. Now these are different because we don't have usually with ASAs you don't usually have a massive holding or a mass adoption of people holding the coins. It's usually pretty concentrated. So what happens is usually you just got to keep the meme machine going. Basically, that's how that works. You just got to keep the meme machine pumping out content, and then people buy the coin because you're pumping out content. It's a really weird business model. I know Snail's got his own coin. Maybe he can talk to that, how difficult it is. But from what I've seen, it's like you just have to like constantly keep it in front of people's attention or the price just drops. Anyway, Tiny Man, down a little on the 24 hours, but it looks like it had a pretty decent week overall. Again, I really wish they had instead of 1 hour and 24 hour, I wish it was 24 hour and 1 week. I would prefer that in these breakdowns, but it is what it is. Chips, none of them really having a good 24 hours, the top coins. I will say I'm surprised Busk is still here. Most people consider it not a legit coin. Squilliam says, it's like having a kid, but I didn't create Gary, just took it over list. Oh, okay, I didn't know that. I didn't realize you didn't create it. But it does seem like having a kid. I think the amount that has to go into this, like Munko seemed to pull it off because they were like everywhere for a while, but then people just kind of move on. I think that's the hard part, these meme coins. Now, some of these, these aren't all meme coins, right? Like Tiny and Chips, I think Pokegold too. These are utility coins. Some people argue you don't need your own coin. Tiny Man didn't have a coin for a very long time. Now it's paying out its rewards in Tiny, and there's a whole thing. Yeah, Squilliam says, Snail says, 100% accurate. Chips is another one because if you can basically own a piece of Algorand Casino and benefit from the profits. And then the other one that's not here, that's similar, is Alpha Arcade. And I've been tracking my payments. I've been a little off on tracking them lately, but you get little, I bought like $10 worth, and I've been getting little micro payments of USDC every few days, and they've been increasing. So that's kind of cool as more and more people use it. In fact, let's look at, this is what the site looks like. So I don't know if you guys have played around with this. I think it's a really fun site. So basically it's a prediction market built on Algorand. There's no KYC, so you can do it in the US. I've actually made a bet, lost it, but I made it. Yeah, so I got a 0 portfolio right now. I don't have anything live. I'd say this is probably a pretty safe bet. No one's going to take the no on this. I think they got to be pretty close, aren't they? Everything from, stuff related to Algorand to, NBA champion, Champions League winner. That's for soccer. Barcelona, Paris Saint-Germain, Real Madrid. Will the Cubs beat the Dodgers? This is like a spot game. You have these spot games going on. So much stuff, and you can. This is all mushed together, but you can categorize it. Ending soon, geopolitics, crypto, Solana failures. I love that that's its own category. That's hilarious, I think. I will say this was a little confusing to watch. We got a Coop meme. That's cool. I think it was a little confusing to try to when I actually bought in and took a bet. It was, I don't know. I still didn't really understand, and I guess I thought you could sell your share before it passes. So like I bought Alabama to win the Final Four, and then, or I'm sorry, to win the, March Madness, just to try it out. I just kind of picked it random, I'll be honest. Well, I think my sister had it as her long shot bracket. So I thought, all right, I'll try it out just to try this thing out. And it went up in value because they passed several things. So I thought I could turn around and sell my share before the whole thing panned out and make a profit, but I could not. So anyway, I was just playing around with that. I think it's fun. It's interesting. I'm glad that exists. So in fact, speaking of Alpha Arcade, someone I might be partnering with, Genfinity Crypto, had on Max Bell. I thought we might watch a little bit of that today. I might be doing some content with them. Hold on, I gotta see what. Give me a second here. Oh yeah. I don't know why I thought that. Okay, hold on. Yeah, here it is. So I don't know if we'll watch the whole thing, but we can at least start it, I think. I'm gonna put my headphones on. Let me switch it over here. I'm thinking we're not gonna have like a super long stream today. I got something to do at 1. Well, yeah, let's watch a little bit of this and we'll react to it. But for context, yeah, I've been in talks with Genfinity to do some content for them, do like kind of the live show. And we haven't really set like a date or anything. It was supposed to start in April. So I don't know. We've been kind of going back and forth a little bit, but that's some of the context that I might be. So he's getting some pretty good guests, which is pretty cool.
Excited to be with Genfinity, interviewing a multitude of builders across Web3. We're going to be diving deep into the weeds within the Algorand ecosystem today, talking to Alpha Arcade and Max up here, prediction market, global prediction market, but built on Algorand. And
also, this is not just Alpha Arcade, but Max is behind Lofty. It's the same company behind Lofty AI. So I think this is I reached out to Max like really early on in Lofty's existence, and at the time they weren't doing any interviews. Obviously that changed, and I didn't hear from him when they reached out. But anyway, I just want to put that out there. It'll be interesting to see what he has to say.
I'm going to hop right in. I think Max is going to walk us through the platform a little bit too, which is going to be awesome. But I always like to start these with an intro. So Max, if you could tell me a little bit about yourself and about Alpha Arcade, that'd be great.
For sure. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Max, one of the founders at Alpha Arcade, also one of the founders at Lofty, which is the world's largest tokenized real estate marketplace, also built on Algorand. I started this with two of my partners at Lofty, Mark and Jerry. We were really just obsessed with Polymarket during the election, like a lot of other people. And we just found these prediction markets were extremely interesting, essentially gathering the collective opinions of the world and being able to see the odds of certain events that you could just never really get the odds for in the past. And with Polymarket being so accurate in predicting, one, the presidential winner, and two, all the swing states, we just figured, one, this is a really cool idea that we want to be a part of. Two, there's nothing on Algorand like this. And three, we think we're the team to build it. And so we really spent nights, weekends, holidays building out the first version. In a few weeks, launched a few months later. And today, I think we've been live for about a month and a half. We've done a little over 350,000 in volume, millions of transactions. I think right now we have about 35 different markets. So it's been a blast. It's a super interesting industry. And really for us, it is a net positive. It allows people to hedge against natural disasters, for example. You might not have insurance on your home, and the odds might be ranging 30-40% for a hurricane in your area. You can essentially predict yes on that occurring to essentially hedge your bet against something potentially happening to your home. And so for us,
That's really interesting. I hadn't thought about that aspect, but that seems like a big gamble. I have to think about that. Doesn't that sound like a big gamble to you guys? Like if you were gonna like put all that money into hedging, it sounds like it's gonna cost you one way or another. Because either like the disaster doesn't happen, but then you lost your bet, or the disaster happens but you win your bet. Am I not thinking about that right? Curious what you guys think. Anyway,
we think this is a positive. We're super excited, and yeah, we can't wait to see what it becomes in the future.
I would love if, for those that aren't kind of in the know, because I think like in crypto sometimes there's so much going on that it's almost impossible for everybody to keep up with what's going on.
Right.
And I know I've heard a lot of Polymarket in the past too. Can you just give us maybe a little bit of a broader overview of kind of what Polymarket represented? And then I know you guys obviously launching Alpha Arcade on Algo, but just kind of what the network represents, like the efficiencies of like Algorand to be able to drive that amount of transactions and kind of what that looks like. Just kind of a broad overview.
For sure. Yeah. So Alpha Arcade, Polymarket, essentially trading platforms where you can predict the outcome of future events. So for example, just to look at a few of our markets, we have like who will win the NBA championship, Champions League winner. And then we have markets, for example, like Russia and Ukraine ceasefire before July. And if you were to look at this market, there is a 26% chance of that ceasefire occurring before July. So one, this gives you really an idea of the odds of this event occurring when you can never really get these odds before. And unlike sentiment on Twitter, where people can just really post whatever they think, their opinions, and they're not really backed by anything because all you have to do is write out a tweet and press the tweet button. With prediction markets, people are putting their money where their mouth is. They think something is going to occur and they're so confident in it and they've done the research that they're willing to put money behind that sentiment. And so you can look at these odds and get a very accurate depiction on whether these certain events are likely to occur. So for the Russia-Ukraine ceasefire market, 26% chance of this occurring. If you were to put down 26 cents and you're correct, you would win $1. And so each share is worth $1. When you are essentially predicting yes on an event, you will need to match with someone that's predicting no. And so it's completely peer-to-peer. And for me, this is really one of the biggest difference between what we're doing and just like traditional markets like Vegas, et cetera. There's no house. You are predicting against someone else completely peer-to-peer, right? We're not involved. We're just essentially the platform. And so again, really prediction markets, like I mentioned before, it is the collective opinions of people, knowing that these people really had to do the research because they're putting their money where their mouth is, unlike polls where, I don't know anyone that's ever actually taken a poll and you can really say whatever you want. It's not backed by anything. There's no consequences.
What's really interesting is like,
yeah, I think that's interesting because one of the reasons why the prediction markets were more accurate, I looked into the guy, there was a big whale that put money on Trump, even though the polls were against Trump. He did something. I actually looked into, I heard a podcast where they went into depth about what he saw that led him to put that money. Because, some people just said, oh, well, he's just a big Trump fan, so he wanted to boost things for Trump. But no one's going to put like millions of dollars just on the off chance that it might move the polls a little bit. What he did is he did something called, I think it's called neighbor outreach. So you don't just talk to one person, but you ask like, well, who are your neighbors voting for? And what they find, I might be mischaracterizing that slightly, but that's basically the idea is you're going out from that one person, but you're saying, well, what are your neighbors doing? And apparently that gives more accurate results because people might not, there's a certain type of person that might respond to a poll, and they're not necessarily the people that are going to vote, or aren't necessarily representative of the voting population as a whole. But then those guys, but they'll be more accurate about talking about their neighbors than they will their own opinions, or their neighbors will be maybe people who don't participate in polls. So what happened was this guy did neighbor research. There was a really specific term. It was like, I want to say like neighbor outreach or something, or neighbor outreach polling, something like that. And he said there was way more support for Trump than the polls were indicating. And that's why he put the big bet, because he was like, I think they're undervaluing it. I think the market is undervaluing Trump's chance. And so I think there's an opportunity. And so he put the money in. So that's what's interesting about Polymarket and other prediction markets like Alpha Arcade, is they kind of democratize that a little bit, but they also make it like a market. They take a market efficiency and putting into stuff like making predictions, and it works pretty well because people don't generally want to lose money. So they'll put more money, the more, it's not perfect, obviously, but generally speaking, the more conviction you have, the more, if you think something is totally wrong, you're more likely to put more money into it than you are if you're like, oh, I think I would like it to be this other thing. So it kind of takes away, like, some of the polls were wildly off. Like in Iowa, there was, I've been kind of following this one lady pollster who was talking about, who did these polls in Iowa that showed Kamala had like this giant lead. It seemed unbelievable. And I was a little concerned because there, they were bringing this lawsuit against her. I think the Trump organization was bringing this lawsuit against her, but I read the lawsuit because I was curious about it. And it turns out that actually she had a lot of polls like that. So you start thinking like, well, hold on, if you're going to you have all these polls and they turn out so poorly, how does that, I have a hard time understanding how you don't like recalibrate and say like, wait a minute, I keep having these polls that are like way too positive towards the Dems and they keep being wrong in this one area. How do you not fix that? And, the lawsuit argued that it was intentional, and they were arguing that, she was actually, I don't know, were they arguing election interference? I can't remember the exact parameters of what the lawsuit was accusing her of, but it does get into free speech issues because I think like you have a right to be wrong. I can, if I say like, I could say like Alpha Arcade is built on Solana. I'd be wrong, but that's not like unprotected speech, right? Now, if I accused like Max of a crime here, for which there was no evidence, that would fall into defamation. Anyway, I'm kind of going on a tangent. Let's watch more of this.
You mentioned Twitter. I mean, it's how many times on Twitter can you even really trust what crypto Twitter has a lot of keyboard warriors. Oh, yeah. And like, it's like and there's a lot of kind of like, I would imagine like false or information that people, even like people with big accounts, will post that comes with some sort of a pretense behind it.
Right.
And it's like, how do I know if what they're saying is loaded verbiage, or if it's their actual opinion backed by
fact? Or if they're getting paid to do it, or if it's a bot.
Or if they're getting paid to do it, or if it's like bot,
Before prediction markets, for the Russia-Ukraine ceasefire example, you could do two things. One, you could go on Twitter, type in those keywords, and then just endlessly scroll to see these opinions with nothing really backing them. Two, you could read news outlets. I think most people know at this point that most news outlets are pretty biased, and those were really the only options. And so now you can go to really any type of event, like which company will have the best AI model by the end of the month. Canada's next prime minister. Will TikTok be banned before May? Will there be a new pope in 2025? US recession this year, 54% chance of yes. And if you're seeing these.
Oh, Gary, I was going to answer your message too. You said $6 and change is cheap right now for NFT. Yeah, I mean, it can be really helpful. It's just so much easier to be able to punch in like frugalbc.algo versus like all those letters and numbers that I won't remember. So sorry, I meant to adjust that when I paused.
Odds that you can be confident are pretty accurate, and you see that there's a higher chance of a recession occurring this year, that can determine how you are spending your money and whether you're investing in stocks or bonds or real estate. And so this information was just never generally available before until now. And it just allows people to make decisions with really a lot more backing those decisions instead of just kind of making them on a whim.
Yep. No, I like it. I think it's super interesting. I know you're going to kind of walk us through the platform a little bit as well. So I'm super excited to kind of load up the screen and you can give us an overview
Yeah.
of all things Alpha Arcade. I think you have to attach it in here so I can bring it up.
All right. Let me know if that worked. I just shared it.
Yeah, it should. Yeah, we're good to go.
Okay, perfect. So this is Alpha Arcade. We have a bunch of different markets: geopolitics, crypto, Solana failures is a pretty popular one on Algorand. Of course, sports, gaming. And so you can see here, for example, one of the more popular markets on Algorand is whether Algorand will surpass 3,200 validators in 2025.
GameStop pumping, let's go. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm surprised they don't have a prediction market for GameStop. They should probably add that.
So you can see here, there's an 87% chance of this occurring. Obviously, it's very likely. If you were to essentially bet 87 cents, you would have the opportunity to win $1. And so you can see here, this is the order book. You can place limit orders. You also have the ability to place market orders, which go through instantly. And each market has very specific rules. And so one of the most important things when it comes to prediction markets is ensuring that the rules are unambiguous. I'm sure people have seen issues with Polymarket, with the Oracle they use, where markets are resolved to either yes or no, and then there are disputes against those results. And so something we take very seriously is making sure that the rules are not vague, that we're including as much information as possible so that there are no potential disputes when the market's actually resolved. Just to give a few more examples, sports markets, the Russia-Ukraine ceasefire market, you can see here, 26% chance. You can look at the odds right here, the chart over time. Again, you can bet yes on this market, or you can bet no. Obviously, no has worse odds. If you bet 78 cents and there is no ceasefire, you will win $1. Whereas if you bet yes, 30 cents, there is a ceasefire, you would win $1. And so obviously the odds are better for yes, worse for no. Make your prediction based on what you truly believe in. Just going down the list, the Solana market, will Solana experience an outage by April 20th? Looks like Solana's been stepping it up, so only a 7% chance. US recession this year, TikTok being banned. And so again, these are things that for TikTok being banned, you can see here that there's a 25% chance before prediction markets that there's no way to get even close to as accurate as a number as you're seeing here, besides, again, just going on Twitter and looking at the sentiment of different people and reading news outlets.
Where do you think, what I think is really interesting is, in crypto and in blockchain, I'm sure you've been around forever. I've been around for a little while, and we always see kind of these trending narratives that happen. And one of the prevailing ones, I think, over the past 12 to 18 months, which I don't necessarily think is a narrative, it's actually happening, is like RWA tokenization.
Yeah.
And when I think of like real world assets, I've said this so many times, like I think of our individual data as a real world asset eventually. And what you guys actually like have here, like, yes, this is like a prediction market and everything else, but like, I'm sure you guys have kind of thought about this a little bit, like the underlying data that you guys are accumulating within the platform has got to be pretty friggin' powerful. And where does it go? I mean, because like, I would imagine like when you have in kind of this attention driven economy that we all live in right now, it's very, like I said, it's very hard to tell what's real, but you guys essentially have a snapshot of reality because people do have to put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah.
What does that look like? What's the power of that data, you think, kind of in the medium term here? Because have you guys thought about that?
Yeah. I mean, for us, like we know these predictions are accurate and we want to get these odds in front of as many people as possible, because it could just really honestly like help them in their everyday lives, whether they make predictions or not. It's helpful for the everyday, not even American, everyday person to know what the odds are of there being a recession in the US or the likelihood of tariffs going against another country, a ceasefire in Russia or Ukraine. That is important information for every single person, regardless of how they like to invest or how it affects their job. Like it's just something them knowing that is better than them not knowing it. And so us being able to get this information to as many people as possible, whether they're predicting or not, that's really the goal. And as we get more users, as we launch more markets, the predictions get even more and more accurate over time. So there's very clear network effects to bringing on more users onto the platform.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that, I think most people in crypto and Web3, I see this a lot when people talk about like the Algorand ecosystem. Like I know like in like even like deep researchers that I've kind of been friends with forever, they're like, it's hard for me to like pinpoint what exactly is so interesting about it. But everybody just ends up saying it just works, which I think is like an interesting catalyst. It's like we overcomplicate so many things.
That's so funny because like how often have I said that? That's like literally the line I used. In fact, I think when I talked with Solomon, I think that was what I said to him. I think I said, because I've been saying this for a long time. Yeah, it is my saying. It just works. So I mean, it's not like Squid Snail says, yeah, that's your saying. it is what I say all the time. It just works. So that's why I use it. Um, I think when I was discussing, us doing some content together, I think I actually said one of the reasons that I said I mostly focus on Algorand just because the stuff actually works. It just works. So yeah, I don't no, I'm not saying he stole the phrase or anything. He might have, but maybe he was thinking about that. But that's good. I want that. I actually want that to perpetuate. I like that idea going around because it does. I mean, that to me, that Algorand can was cool because they can make the cans and stuff. But I think it just works as like it's surprising because in crypto you would think that'd be the case because most having it actually work like functional that should be like table stakes for any cryptocurrency or like if nobody goes, gee, I sure like Walmart, but I can't ever order anything. Every time I try to order something, it doesn't work. Like Amazon would just go out of business. Like it has to work. It has to function really well. And a competitor would have to function just as well. But for some reason on crypto, and I think this is less the case now, chains can actually get away with not working that well. So these blockchains can actually get away with like not being very good and not functional. Ethereum got away with it for a long time. It's funny. I had a conversation with a younger business guy at one of the business meetups I went to. Cool guy. I liked him a lot. He's got a social media business that's like social media marketing business doing really well. And we started talking about crypto because I mentioned I was a crypto YouTuber. And he was like pretty heavy into Ethereum. And he asked me what I thought about Ethereum. And I said, well, I think the problem is they're becoming uncompetitive because so many other coins have come out and they're in the top 100 now that can do what Ethereum does 10 times better across all dimensions. Algorand's one of them. HBAR's, Hedera is one of them. I don't know much about XDC. I know one of my trolls that I have likes to talk about XDC all the time. He likes to say Algorand sucks, switch to XDC, and we always have a little fun back and forth. But yeah, I think that's a really important phrase, and it just works. So I don't have a problem with him saying that. But I do think it's funny because how often have I said that, right?
Things like in this space, whether it be like, here's a new technology term that 95% of the world just isn't ever going to care about. Why don't we just make the technology work? You mentioned some of the stats that you guys have had through Alpha Arcade in kind of the month and a half.
And by the way, he's talking about Alpha Arcade, but one of my problems with Lofty is actually it doesn't function as well as I would like it to. And I don't remember if he said this here. I caught like a segment. I'm trying to get to that segment because I thought it was pretty good. But they said that they're doing some new stuff on Lofty. Actually, it didn't have anything to do with Alpha Arcade, but they're adding this new function on Lofty. And because of that, they said they're not going to work on the rest of the site very much. And I'm like, that's terrible because I did finally sell some stuff on Lofty. I was able to sell quite a few properties. And I don't really understand it because I had to go, how did that work? I had to go in the Lofty wallet and sell them from there. But if I did it on the main platform, it didn't work. I don't really understand it, why that was the case, but I was able to sell like a number of my failing properties. And man, it's like pennies on the dollar. It's not pennies on the dollar, but we're talking like tokens I paid $50 for. I'm now getting like 20 some dollars, So, I mean, I lost a lot of money from Lofty, and I think I'm going to try to figure out how to take that on my taxes next year because, yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty awful. The problem with the market maker is it's not accurate. It is the accurate reflection of how much people actually will pay for it. So they'll give you this value like, oh, your token's going up because they measure it as, well, you bought it at 50 and it was the property was this price. Now the property is a higher price. It's like $20,000 more, but your coin dropped in half because nobody wants that coin. Even if the people theoretically would be paying more for the property, the actual token has less value. Some of them have been selling. They've been selling some of them, and then you get like a return. In fact, I gotta check my Lofty to see if I actually get that. You know, the funny thing is too, I have to go on Firefox on my laptop in order to access Lofty, because if I go on any other platform, it just cycles through that Cloudflare thing, and I'll hit the yes, I'm a human, and then it cycles and it goes back, it resets basically. So it's like an infinite loop. You can't get out of it. So that, I mean, that gives me pause, because I think what happens with a lot of these companies is they focus so much on adding new things that they forget to like build their core product and do it well.
350K volume, however many transactions. Walk us through that as far as, I mean, I'm sure you guys look at maybe a Polymarket in comparison for when they launched and where you kind of think that goes, and kind of ramping up the statistics that you guys have had.
Right. We have all of our, I can share my screen again. We have all of our analytics and data fully transparent on our website. So you can literally go to our website. You can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
You can see all the transactions. You can see the daily users. You can see the charts are looking good up and to the right, something you always want. And so for this, we really feel this is like a community-driven app. People are talking about it a lot. They love it. They're having fun. And this is something I don't think we've seen on Algorand in a bit. I mean, people will typically just pay attention to price action. I think a lot of different chains are experiencing interesting price action, just to put it lightly. And so for us, like we really see this as a community product. And naturally, it's been growing substantially. The number of daily active users has been increasing. But more importantly, it's very sticky. If someone uses the product, they're not only coming back, they're coming back that same day, right? They might not even make predictions. They're just looking at the odds of the different markets because it affects their everyday lives. And for us, and anyone starting a company, whether in Web3 or just in general, you care much less about the new users you're getting, and you care a lot more about how much the current users actually like your product. Because if you can find 10, 20 people that are obsessed with your product, it is infinitely better than finding 1,000 people that kind of like your product. Because if you find 10 to 20 people that love it, they probably know 10 to 20 people that would also love it. And that's really how you build a super successful company, by finding a small group of users that love your product, doing things that don't scale, and then really building things up from there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean,
That's a very good point, by the way. Because there was a platform called NifGen that a lot of the Algorand content creators, such as myself, were going to partner with, and they put all this time building the platform. They were working with us. We were giving them feedback on the platform, and then one day I asked like what their acquisition plan was. They did not have a customer acquisition plan. It's really crucial what he's talking about when he says like stuff that doesn't scale. When I started my local news newsletter, my first customers, my first paid subscribers were people that I just reached out to, like people I knew, and I'd say, "Hey, I started this new newsletter. Let me know what you think. Like, can I get your email to put it on there?" So I was like physically in the real world asking people for their email, putting in entering in, just sending it to them. They didn't have to subscribe, but a lot of them did. A lot of them became paid subscribers. And that was just from, basically doing the stuff that doesn't scale. It doesn't scale. I couldn't grow to the size I am now. Like the odds of me going around and physically doing that are pretty low. But to get that first like 100, they usually say the first 100 customers, like you usually have to do something kind of crazy to get the ball rolling, so that was what was missing. And I gave them some ideas, but it didn't seem like it really registered. And yeah, it's too bad. They were pretty nice guys. Like I went to Decipher because of them in 2022, and it sounded promising. I was like, I thought it was their number. They gave like these kind of pie in the sky projections, but I thought it was reasonable that we could have gotten a decent number of viewers and a decent number of subscribers on there, because it was supposed to be kind of like Patreon, but on the blockchain basically. Another problem too, though, is I was the only content creator that was making consistent content for it. So that's a problem too. I'm not really sure. I never did follow up with any of the other guys to find out like why they didn't participate in it more, but it is what it is.
Obviously, in all areas of every industry, there's like KPIs, and I think in crypto we've kind of looked at key performance indicators as like how many wallets have onboarded. But I agree with you, which is like it doesn't matter if you onboard 100,000 wallets, or as some networks do, just invent statistics. But like if you onboard 100,000 wallets, it's much different than onboarding 1,000 active users or 100 active users, because active users they're actually leveraging the technology. And I think, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's a really good point. And Web3 is interesting, and we figured this out. We realized this with Lofty early on. when you launch a product in Web3, or just in general, the hardest thing ever for any product is to get like 100 people that are using your product and that say they love it. But when you launch a product, like a Web3 product, let's say on Algorand or Solana or anything, you immediately get hundreds, even thousands of people using your product that tell you that they absolutely love it. It's the greatest thing ever. In reality, they don't care about your product. They just want your product to do well. So the underlying token that they own goes up in value.
Sure.
And so we actually call these at Lofty like fake users. It's fake product market fit. You convince yourself you built something people truly want, but in reality, most of these users are going to churn very quickly after using your product because they don't really care. They just want their tokens, their algorithms.
Well, it's one of the reasons.
I think that's actually a really good point. Stefan, hey, welcome to the show. Stefan says run. I'm not sure what you mean there. Are you talking about the title? Like, yeah, it was a play on Bull Run, and instead of Bull Run, it's Bull S Run. I gotta keep it PC for the algorithms, but you get what I'm saying. Anyway, this is a really good point. I like that Lofty doesn't have a token, but Alpha does, so that's an interesting take. Because yeah, I'm probably more likely to. I think he has a good point, but also like, isn't Alpha Arcade kind of set up like that? Because you can just buy and hold the token and hope the platform does well. And if the platform does well, you make money. It's always better to be, I mean, it is usually better to be the house than to try to play against the house. And I think that's kind of the dynamic going on there. Lofty is a little bit different because there's not a Lofty token per se. Like the tokens are the NFTs for the real estate. It was a good idea. Just functionally, it didn't work the way I had hoped it would.
This is why somebody
block the value. And so that's a lot of, you see all these Web3 companies that just go kind of like this.
Yep.
And we didn't know that with Lofty going in, but with Alpha, like we expected it, right? And thankfully, like we have some fantastic users. We get a really good feedback. Our Discord's very popular, but it's just something we've noticed in Web3 that tends to happen. It's kind of this like fake product market fit, if you will.
It's one of the reasons why I would say some of the biggest opportunities for crypto to kind of like overlap into just haven't come to fruition yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think gaming is one of those. And I also think like even social media aspects is one of those because, every time so far that we've seen like a token associated with like a social media platform in crypto or a token associated with a game in crypto, as soon as the price of the social media token goes down, nobody cares about the platform. As soon as the price, yeah. So, and I think in that vein, it's interesting because I look at kind of platforms like what you guys have built with Alpha Arcade, and it's directly meeting users like where they're at for things that don't have to necessarily even be about crypto. Like it's everything in their everyday lives. Like how many times do we see a project launch? And I mean, so many founders just lose so much steam because like, as soon as that honeymoon phase ends after something launches after like 3 or 4 weeks, it's like, yeah, how do we maintain this level of excitement in perpetuity forever? And it's impossible.
For sure.
That's very true. I think this is, it's interesting that you brought up gaming tokens and social media. To me, those are two use cases that seemed super obvious when I first got into crypto. I thought, oh yeah, NFTs totally makes sense for gaming. And the token I was less concerned about, although I thought, yeah, play to earn, that's kind of cool. Like imagine if you could make enough playing some game to sustain yourself maybe, or it was kind of wild to think about. The problem is like, oh wow, we really peaked out there. How's the audio? Is the audio really bad? Let me know. I just saw my monitor just flash red on that one. I'll move it away a little bit. There we go. The problem with gaming is like what ended up happening. A company like Gala puts out these. They announce some game with some like really, really early footage. And then they sell these really expensive NFTs, like crazy expensive, the idea that once the game like kicks off and is huge, you're going to, oh, Jesse Walter says audio's good. Appreciate that, brother. Appreciate it. With this idea that once the game is huge, like your token, it's going to be such a good investment because like you're going to be in on early and these give you privileges in the game that other people won't have. You'll be able to make money in ways that others won't because that wasn't part of how it was set up, or that's how it's set up. Like you maybe buy an NFT for a shop or whatever. And the problem is then the game never comes out. They make all this money on the front end, and that's not necessarily a bad thing in and of itself, because like, hey, game development is expensive, and if these indie publishers can make money before by selling NFTs for a game that's going to come out, like it's not necessarily a bad thing. The problem is like now your incentive to finish the game isn't as strong, and we've seen that with Gala. That happened a lot where where like Townstar, as far as I know, Townstar is still in beta. It technically isn't a fully released game, and that's like one of their longest. That's one of Gala's longest running games. We saw it not really work out with like say Zone. Actually, that I have not heard anyone talk about Zone in a really long time. I don't even know what happened. Is it gone? Let's check. I think we're gonna be. I'm gonna I'm gonna put a link to this in the video so you guys can watch more of it. If you guys want to finish this one up, I don't want to like steal his whole thunder by watching the whole video, but pretty interesting. I just want to see whatever happened to Zone Out. Let's just do a little Googling here, huh? How are we? Oh, hold on a second. Zone. Like, it's apparently still around. Plus, they have this like gift card marketplace, which is kind of wild. 21 million total transactions. But it started more than 2 years ago, didn't it? Let me see. What's the token been? Let's look at the token once. These guys had a big team at Decipher. There was a lot of them. Yeah, I mean, it's been a sinking ship. This is what a lot of ASA charts look like. Actually, let's zoom out. Let's go weekly here. Yeah, oh geez, look at that. All right, so that's the start. Just one big slump. So the problem is, this is what happens with a lot of ASAs. They just shoot up, and then they come crashing down, and they kind of trickle off into, really into obscurity here. Actually, hold on. Yeah, so right now it's about 3,843 zone tokens to $1. And I apparently don't have any. I'm surprised. I did play the zone game back in the day. So this is what happens. The problem is the price just tanks. I wonder if Cosmic, because Cosmic used to be up there too. Then they got hacked and had to swap out, or one of the wallets got, yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, these gaming tokens just never really work out. This is what happens with them. And that's a problem. That's a problem because, like, how are you going to sustain this, I've heard it said that none of these projects actually need to have their own token. It kind of makes sense with gaming as long as the token is involved in the game, but a lot of times that's not even the case. Like, what was the point of Gala? Because Gala, every game that was on Gala used its own token. So what was even the point? Oh, I don't know if you can even, actually, you can't even swap for a zone. There's no route. This is interesting. I'm going to have to look into this more because I don't remember. I remember hearing a little bit of pushback on Zone, like that there were issues with it, but I never heard like a full explanation. I know there used to be a lot of free games you could play and earn on. I definitely am not signed in on this computer, but yeah, I wonder what happened with Zone. Do they have actually, hold on. I go to about. Well, they still have the old bird logo, so that's probably not. Oh, look, they've rugged. Wow, they're gone. Zone is gone. Look at that. They're just out. Oh, I wonder if they rugged a long time ago. When did they rug? We gotta find out when they rugged. $8 months ago. What happened to Zone GameFi and their website? Oh, they had their own. All the links don't work, and I haven't been able to find the link that allows to play it all. Has ZoneFi gone down, and I haven't caught on yet? They had such a great premise. It even included Dota 2 as one of the games you could play. So yeah, you could play. Yeah, Squilliam says, sheesh, yeah. Yeah, because well, it was funny too because it changed a lot. Like at first, you were gonna be able to play chess against other players and earn Algorand if you won. I'm about to sell all my tokens. I've been staking them to be able to play more and bring more people I know to join the Algorand blockchain, using Zone as one of the first places they should go to start and learn about GameFi and Algorand. They went dark, feel like the project is dead. Oh man, it's pretty crazy. They went dark, but keep opening new staking pools. I just sold off my whole stake. The games were really simple and the business model is pretty strong too. Oh, well, I guess it's another slow rug. I haven't posted in months. And yeah, like we said, I think this was probably before they just went dead, because you can see just gone. They just flat out rugged. What about their other ones? Hold on, let me see what the other ones are. Nope, Instagram is gone. What about Discord? I thought I was already following there. Well, it's still here. Is there a chat? That should be good. Tribal? What about Zone from Algo Project? Have Tribal to permit me to share this with everyone. I found a team of cybersecurity experts and they helped me recover my lost money. Click the link in my bio. No, I'm not going to do that. Why? Because that's a scam. Oh, it's all scams now. Oh, that's so crazy. They're just all scams. Holy crap. Dude, this is wild. If anyone needs 50K pre-finals wildcard slot. Yeah, it's all look at this. Beta tester. Oh, we're looking for employees for a crypto project. It's just posted over and over and over. Wow. RIP Zone. I'm surprised, like I didn't see like a ton of chatter on this. Oh wait, look at this. Zone is now on BNB chain. But then why did they rug? I wonder when they did that. Did they have like an announcement? Supposedly still in Commodus. Should we look at that? Hold on. Commodus Algorand. I do have stuff staking on here that I have to probably reclaim or whatever, but I gotta think. I just want to see if that zone token is here. Yeah, it's not. This Fry token still is. So it's probably not on farm too, but I just want to double check. Yeah, I didn't think so. That would have been a really weird long shot thing. I didn't think that was probably the case, but it went silent a long time ago. Not sure what's happening there. Sad. What if I go? I wonder if they actually went to. Well, this is Zone 2 BNB, but not necessarily. BNB crypto game. Okay, I guess I was just curious. Like, apparently Zone is just a thing of the past now. There's like top games on here, but I don't think any of them have to do with. Here, I'm not gonna play this one, but I just want to see if there's chapters. There is. Engines of Fury, Fungible, Big Time. Oh, I think I was playing this game for a while. If that's the one I'm thinking of. Let me see. Is that the one I'm thinking of? Oh no, it's something else. Okay, never mind. Magic Craft and Arcos Champions. Yeah, so well, apparently Zone rugged, and that's our big breaking news for today. All right, I gotta get going. I got other stuff I have to do today, but thanks so much for joining and tuning in. And if you haven't hit the like button already, please do so. If you're not subscribed or following any of the whatever channel you're watching, whether that's YouTube, Twitch, or Kick, we got basically Kick versus YouTube, right? Or sorry, Kick versus Twitch right now. So which we're gonna be choosing between one or the other in a couple months. So keep an eye. If you want us to see us on Twitch, give us some love on Twitch. If you want to see us on Kick, give us love there. Schoolium says much love. Stay safe, bro. Same to you, my friend. Same to you. I hope you guys are all doing well out there.